Well, hi guys, my name is Ola. I'm truly grateful that you can join me on my next video. Well, today's video is going to be a very important one and one I think we can all relate to. I'm going to be talking about whether to buy or to rent a property. Now, we've all been there. We've all been in a situation where maybe you're on the high street, you see the agent there, you see a list of properties, and you're like, actually, let me check what they have here. Let me see what the property prices are. Can I afford it or can I not afford it? And we're standing there dreaming away and wishing and hoping that one day we will be able to buy our dream home. Or let's say you go to a different city, and if you're like myself as well, sometimes I might go to a new place and I'm like, okay, you know what? I like this place. Let me see what the property prices are. If you pass by an estate agent, again, you check the properties there, see the prices and see, okay, is a place maybe I can see myself living in? Or you go to, you're on holiday. You might like the area you're in and you say, you know what? Let me check the property prices in this area as well and see if it is affordable. This is something that many people do, and we're dreaming away and wishing and hoping that one day we might own our dream home. Well, I think, wishing to buy a house is something that could be good, but also, if you do not plan it well, can be a total disaster. Well, for those who don't know me, once again, my name is I've been an accountant for over 15 years, and I have owned properties in the past as well. And I've got some experiences that I can share with you that can actually help you make more informed decisions in buying your home. Like I said, this will actually help you to decide, should I buy or should I rent? And I think what will help us in actually deciding that is, let's look at some advantage or disadvantages between buying and renting. So advantage of buying a house. Well, with buying a house, what you're doing is obviously over time, you're building up equity. For those who don't know what equity is when you buy a house, you have a mortgage. And obviously, as the house over the years, the value of the house grows. So the value of the house over time, what you have left to pay is the equity on the house. So obviously, if you have a house, is a form of asset in a way, but some say it's a liability, because an asset is something that puts money in your pocket, or a liability is something that takes money away from your pocket. So technically, having a house, if you're living in it, is a liability till you rent it. A house over time builds equity. That's an advantage. Another advantage of buying a house is it gives you more control. You have a say how you want to design it, you want to modify it, you want to decorate it how you want it. You have more flexibility in that area. Those are some of the advantages with regard to buying a house. Now, with renting, what's the advantage of renting a house? Well, the advantage of renting a house is it gives you more flexibility. You can easily move if you need to move. If you need to change job, move country, quickly, you can quickly do that with renting a property. The other thing as well is with renting a property is low maintenance costs. With renting a property, you don't need to worry about, man, the roof is going to come off, or I need to do some repair to the house. The landlord takes care of those costs. So it helps you to be more in control of your costs on a month-to-month basis. The other thing with renting is there's less upfront cost. When you're renting, the only thing you need to worry about is having your deposit and making sure you have your rent to pay on a month-to-month basis. And the other thing as well is, like I said, it's more fixed in a way, the costs that you have on a month-to-month basis. Those are some of the advantages with regard to renting a house. Now let's look at the disadvantage of renting a house. So with renting a house, with buying a house, the disadvantage is maintenance costs. Obviously, you have total control with regard to the house. But guess what? When the roof comes up and needs repairs, guess who's going to pay for it? You have to pay for it. If the wall comes down and it needs to be fixed, guess who has to pay for it? You have to pay for it. If the oven breaks down or the washing machine breaks down, guess who has to pay for it? You have to pay for it. So in a way, with owning the house, there's a lot more unforeseen expenses that can come out of your pocket very quickly. That's one area of disadvantage. The other thing as well is there's less flexibility. If you own a house, you can quickly move to a different city or different country if you need to, because it takes time to actually sell the property. So there's less flexibility with owning a property. The other thing as well, obviously, it's a blessing when the value of the house goes up. Or what many forget sometimes as well, the value of the property as it's going up can also go down. So you could have something like a negative equity, where, say, for example, you bought a house for 120,000, and because the property values are going down, your property is now what, 110,000. So you have a negative equity, 10,000. That isn't good. So you have to be wise when you buy a property. The other thing as well is, obviously, with owning a property, you're paying the mortgage on the property. Now, if the interest rate goes up drastically, this can affect your mortgage as well. Where if you, let's say you're paying £1,000 and then a year or 2 years down the road, the interest rate doubles or goes up drastically, what you're paying will go up drastically as well. Obviously, depending on the mortgage, if it's fixed or variable, but it would definitely affect your mortgage over time. The other thing as well is buying a house. Sometimes the house you want to buy is in a remote area. I remember when I first bought my property, I was living in London and I bought property in Bedford. It was a 1-bed flat that I bought there that has its own garage, which was awesome. I remember buying the property and I was there by myself most of the time because most people did not want to travel to come down to Bedford. Most people would say, man, that's far. You're in a remote area. And I remember the cost coming down to London. Then I was still working in London and I was paying like 400, 500 pounds a month just traveling down to London. The travel costs was expensive. But that's one of the things you got to factor in when you're buying a property. Those friends that you have might not be visiting you frequently, and the cost of traveling might be a bit higher compared to you working locally where you work. Now, disadvantage, you rent. You have lack of control. You need the landlord approval to do anything to the house because it's not your property, it's his property. The other thing as well is you are not building equity over time. You could be renting a property for many years, but because it's the landlords, you are not building equity in the house. So you're just paying rent and you're not really building enough equity that could be yours over time. The other thing as well is the landlord could increase the rent if he wants to, and you can have no choice in those decisions. And what's also making it more challenging for some people is if you've been living in a property for many years and you got maybe a reasonable rent, but then the rent around you has been going up and up. When you move, you could be paying almost double what you're paying. So that's why many people are not moving as frequently because the property prices are going up and up and up. So if you got a decent rent, many people rather stay there compared to going into the current market where they'll be paying almost double the price. So in a way, the rent could shoot up and the landlord can demand the property back at any time, which would be a disadvantage. Also, poor maintenance. You could have a property that you love, but then the landlord could be terrible, where he's not doing the maintenance repairs, he's not doing any repairs to the house, and you're stuck with a terrible house. So that's one of the disadvantages with renting. Obviously, with regard to either buying or renting, if you want to buy, what the mortgage lenders will normally look at is they will obviously look at your salary, and it's normally at the rates, I think, whatever you're earning, be about 4 to 4.5 times your salary. So if you're thinking about, okay, I want to buy, what price bracket should I be looking at? That could be a range for you. Obviously, with regard to that as well, they're going to look at your credit score, and they will obviously see what your existing debt is, and they will adjust that with your salary. And also they will look at, can you actually afford the deposit that will be needed on the house? So those are some of the things that will actually help you in deciding, should I buy or should I rent? What I want to share with you right now then is a spreadsheet that will also help you to analyze the figures more in depth. As you can see, the spreadsheet here says home rent or buy analysis. And what this one does is you can come in there and actually just put in the figures and give yourself a more realistic goal of, okay, if I want to buy, what are the things I need? Or if I need to rent, is this an advantage but disadvantage as well? So if you could see here from the spreadsheet, let's say the property that you see is 325,000. So I'll go ahead, 325,000, the purchase price. Obviously on top of that, sometimes you can have a application fee added onto it. If you buy a property, the mortgage lender might require maybe 95% of the purchase price, or depending on what the lender is requiring. Well, most of the time might be like 95%, and then you have to pay 5% of the purchase price. So I've kind of calculated it automatically. You could change this as well. If it's 90%, you could change it, and then the formula changes automatically to 95%. Just come in there, put in 95%. And then below, this is the loan terms. So if it's 25 years, you put in 25 years, put in the interest rates that you think is going to be for the mortgage. So I put here 599, which kind of gives you the mortgage repayment. You'll be paying 1,995.59. So that kind of to see as well. Okay, is that an amount I can afford? Okay. And then coming down there, now the purchase transaction cost, what you need to kind of like pay for. You got 5% deposit. So from obviously the figure you put up here, this will be calculated automatically. You can come in and adjust these figures there. So I've got, for example, mortgage application cost 1,500, survey fees 480. If you have a bankruptcy search, you can put a figure in there as well. Removal costs. If you're moving from one property to another property, you can put in what the costs might be. Legal fees on the purchase, you can put what you think the figure will be. I put in there about 1.5%, and also obviously including VAT on top of that. So kind of factor that in. And then here you got the stamp duty on the purchase. So if you live in the UK, obviously there's a stamp duty you have to pay on the property. So this one is in line with what current stamp duty will be on a residential house. So if you're purchasing 325 property, this is what you're going to be paying, roughly 6,250. So from this, you can see this is what your total transaction cost will be. You're going to need 1,000 as part of your transaction costs. Now, once you buy the property, obviously you might need have stuff you want to do to the property, but this one also will help you to kind of like put the costs aside. So redecoration, put the costs in there. For example, like what I put here, 7,500. If you want to put some flooring, what the cost is going to be, kitchen units, like put a figure in there. White goods, fridges, or whatever you want to put in there, you put a cost in, and then miscellaneous is any other costs that you haven't allocated for, but you think you will spend it. So this is total building costs, and then below that is the monthly cash flow. So what this one helps you to see is with the property that you're buying, what would you get for rent if you're to rent it out? So that's what you just put in there, what the current rent is for that property. The monthly interest payment will be calculated automatically from the figure that you inputted. And then the maintenance costs and estate agents or what other costs are on the property that you just entered in. Travel costs, put that in if there's any travel costs that you incur. And then there's formulas here. This one tells you what your total equity will be, how much you need to buy the property. So total equity invested is 46,150. So this from the figurehead obviously is from the transaction cost and the building costs. So when you come down here, now this is where you analyze. Okay, is it better for me to buy or is it better for me to rent? So we go here, rent versus buy. So what you want to do here, okay, what is your current rent right now? So you put in what your current rent is. If you're paying 1,680, like for example, you enter that in. This is what your annual payment is going to be. And then you put in what your annual travel cost is that you're paying. And then what you do is on this column here, buy. If you're buying the property that you want to buy right now, what's the mortgage repayment on that? So this will be calculated automatically. Like I said, this is the annual payment that you're going to be making. The maintenance costs on that property that will be picked up from the figure that you entered above, and also what your travel costs will be. Now, the reason why we're doing this is we want to analyze from the rent you're currently paying to your new mortgage that you're going to be getting. If we kind of spread it out for, let's say, 7 years, we want to see over the next few years, let's say 7 years, what am I paying in terms of rent and what will I be paying in terms of my mortgage? Now, the way we're going to calculate this as well is with your rent, we're going to assume if you just put all your rent money into an investment fund, yeah. So let's say over the 7 years, you put your rent in an investment fund that's paying 6.3%, for example, and the rent is actually going up 5% every year. So your rent is going up and also you get return on the investment fund. So we want to calculate if you were to put this money aside instead of buying the property, am I getting a better return than actually putting the money on the property itself? So that's what we're trying to calculate. So we put so over 7 years, we put the rates we think annual rent increase, what we think is going to be, and then average return on investment. You put that in as well. So this one here, the buy section, is going to tell you what you think the property is going to appreciate by. So year by year, what the average appreciation on the property is going to be. So like we'll put 5.5%. Now, over 7 years, like I said at the top there, the appreciated value will be 472,000. Yeah. In that 7 years, you will have repaid the principal on that mortgage you'll have repaid is 46,422. So the remaining loan balance is 262,328. And then the equity in the house, like if you have to sell it after 7 years and you get your equity out, you're going to get 210,443. Now, like I said, if you were to invest it, you would get in 7 years 216,228. So which one do you think is the best value? Obviously, from looking at this, if I was just putting that money away, invested, I'm going to get better return than actually buying a property. So you can see this tells you rent instead. So this kind of just helps you to make a quick decision. Okay, should I rent or should I buy? If one paying right now, I actually put it away, invested away, am I getting a better return? Or should I actually buy the property and how much return I'm going to get for my money over time? So this spreadsheet just helps you to actually quickly analyze that, make decisions, and then you can decide what you want to do. And I hope this spreadsheet video has been very helpful. I appreciate you joining me again today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. For those who want the spreadsheet, there's a link below that's going to send you to where you can get the spreadsheets. Thank you for joining. And as always, I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.